FFXIV and difficulty. Having played FFXIV for some years, and generally others much longer, I've had a few general observations when it comes to difficult end-game content. I feel like it's something the game in general could improve on, okay? In other games, I found myself with all sorts of difficult end-game content. With Final Fantasy, there's a lot of content, but the game sorely lacks difficult 5-player content. Criterion/variant dungeons are changing this. Yes, but we all know that they have lackluster rewards. I'm not going to go over that again. I feel like we talk about that every day. It's the most common complaint that we've had for like months already, so we don't need to beat a dead horse, we know. And difficult single-player content. It feels to me like if you want real difficulty, you have to go to Savage/Ultimate content and have no other options. Oh, so this is about like wanting a mid-core, like more of a mid-core stuff, right? Yeah, the difficulty curve feels off. Savage Ultimate is much harder than anything else. I mean, Ultimate obviously is much harder than everyone else. For me, I can't really put these in the same category because they're so different. Ultimate's its own thing. It's not made for most people. It's for like the top tier player. Savage is much more forgiving, especially the first I mean, this Savage tier, the first like 3 fights were really not too bad. The first one is very beginner friendly. I would say if you can do Devour, you can do the first Savage fight. And so if you can do an extreme trial, you can do the first Savage fight for sure. Like I would say that's how they approach. But I don't know, maybe people just get intimidated by the idea of Savage. Even extremes and going into either is a massive jump from story mode content. I mean, it is a massive jump from story content. That's absolutely true, yeah. That is fair. That is fair. I agree. WoW has things like Mythic Dungeons, normal raids, Mythic Plus are good jumping off points from casual content if anyone wants to learn. It wasn't as big of a leap for me to go from story mode content to extremes because I've played other MMOs on semi-sweaty levels. But I joined FFXIV with some more casual friends, and they found it to be an incredibly difficult and daunting jump. Which leads to the next point. So I wanted to ask some of you guys, like, are there people in the chat that, like, you see yourself as a more casual FF14 player, and you don't want to even try, like, the first Savage fight of the tier because it seems like an incredibly difficult and daunting jump? Like, are you in that category? Like, would you agree with that? This is something I feel like I need other people's perspective on because I was always like a raid-focused MMO player. I always jumped straight into raids. It was always the thing I wanted to do. It was always my natural in-game point. And there was absolutely nothing that would stop me from getting there. I'm super casual. This is my first Savage tier I'm working on. The jump up to Savage has been rough. This is why I wanted to hear from you, because I feel like I have a lot of experience in raiding in Final Fantasy. I have experience in raiding in other games. So for me, when I say something like, oh, well, the first fight of the Savage tier is so beginner friendly, it's so accessible, you know, I understand that I probably have a skewed perspective on that. And I have no idea what it's like for somebody who it's their first Savage tier ever. It could be incredibly overwhelming. You don't even know how to like identify mechanics. You don't have like this knowledge, the backlog of knowledge that like, okay, well, I know what this marker does. I know what this marker does. I know what that does. When I started, I sweated out on extremes even. It was scary. Yeah, I mean, the extremes were super scary. I actually had a panic attack the first time I had to do Ravana extreme. It was my first extreme trial. I was tanking and I had a legit panic attack before going in there. I mean, I was so freaked out. I was so freaked out and I had not even been in there yet. And then I went in and it wasn't that bad. Also know that you might go into a fight, and this has happened to me so many times, where I go into the fight and I'm looking at the mechanic. People are explaining it to me in a simple way. I cannot get it. I do not understand what they're saying. There have been so many times where I'm just like, I'm too dumb. Yeah, I've seen the mechanic a few times. It's just, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. I don't know why I keep dying. But eventually, you can actually just brute force it. Where you do it enough times and you will eventually get it. Something will go off like that. The neuron will fire at the other one. Magic can happen. And then you're like, oh, I used to be a Next 40 and AQ 40 rating content. Same. Hey, I also do that. Even in the original coils, up to T9 before I quit. However, I found that the time spent learning progressing is not a good value to me. Honestly, that's valid. Since coming to that realization, I avoid Guild Wars 2 CMs, F14 Savage. I even totally avoided in-game content in Terra altogether. Feels like I'm just wasting hours I could be spending on another game, chasing a single item or two. It's good that you were able to come to that conclusion for yourself and just say, okay, I've spent 80 hours progging this, but when I got it, like, did I feel good enough to justify all that time spent? For me, the answer is absolutely yeah. Assuming I got a cool piece of loot out of it or something like worthwhile out of it. But that's gonna be different for everybody because it can be a shitload of time. The main game casual content does not teach you to play well. It doesn't. Yeah, it really doesn't. That's true. Savage content is perhaps the first time players may be expected to use skills like arm's length, feint, personal mitigation. This has been a big complaint. People saying that people are just not using MIT. Because why would they? They never used it before. It's strange that core skills are just not required to the hardest content. That's fair, yeah. This leads back to there being no real difficult single-player content with some outliers like the Ranjit fight, which has an easy mode. Nothing in the story mode, do you think it was a mistake in the story for them to make it so you could pick, like if you fail, you can pick very easy and try again? It's like, yeah, I wish the game would do a better job of teaching players how to play well. But I don't know if in the story cutscenes is the right place for it. Nothing in the story mode, no single player content in game teaches you to play your job optimally and use the cool storage. Oh, and here's another thing, by the way, though. With some of these story fights where you don't even operate your own character and you're like, you need to operate you're controlling an NPC or you're controlling a machine or something like that. I don't think it matters if you put easy mode on that because that's not even your character. You're not used to that. So who gives a shit if you put on easy or not? You'll never have to use it again. You will never have to play that character, that NPC or robot ever again. So just let people get through it if they're having a hard time. I don't see any issue with that. But I do think maybe in this situation of like job quests, there's some like job story quests where that would make sense that you need like absolute basic understanding of your job to progress. I can't tell you the number of times that I've tried to learn a new job. I go to Stone Sky Sea. I feel like I got a decent understanding of it. Then you get into a hard content, you get into a trial, and suddenly I don't remember anything I was supposed to be doing because now I need to be moving around. I've like lost my stacks or I've lost my resources and I don't know how to get back on track. The bosses weren't moving around. I'm supposed to be moving. I don't know when I can move and not lose this shit that I'm supposed to be keeping track of on my job. Like, it can go to hell in a handbasket really quickly. You need, like, Clippy in there to be like, hey, so you've been fighting this thing for 5 minutes and you didn't put up your dot. Did you know that you have a dot? Do you know what a dot is? Well, here's what it is. And then you can try again. It's like, great job. You had your dot uptime 100%. Your dot never fell off. You did fantastic. Like basic things that would be very easy to check in an automated way. I say that specifically because when I started raiding in Savage, my first experiences in the hard content in this game, I had no idea. Like, I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and I even watched videos. Like, I watched videos before I went in, and I tried to learn to do better. But we're doing the Savage fights, and one of the gamers in my team was like, you know, I've noticed that your dot up time is really low. I'm like, what? I'm like, how can you tell? He's like, well, I been watching your animations and I know what that animation looks like, and I've also know exactly how long the dot lasts, so I just memorized it, and that's how I know that your dot up time could be better. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. It helped me a lot though. Like, no kidding. It really helped me